Hey, what's up, Robocop fans? Thanks for joining me. I'm a fan myself, and it's a pleasure to be doing a review of the hottest new Robocop figure out in the market. And that will be the Robocop 7-inch Neca figure. I'm going to be doing a review of this figure and comparing it to its counterpart, the 7-inch McFarlane figure that came out in 2004. Now, this new figure was first showcased in Comic-Con 2011. Fusion Comics got some really good footage of this figure in the display case. So let's take a look at the display case.
By all means, jump in. I like to press the they got the lead out. And then that's production there.
Alright, so let's take a look at the packaging of this Neca Robocop figure. So as you can see, Robocop standing upright. The background is pretty cool. It has the prime directives, and then on the bottom is part man, part machine, all cop. And when you turn it around, it gives a description of the Robocop, the history of Robocop, and has that poster-like stance. Comparing that with McFarlane, which is over here, you see that for McFarlane it has a different pose. Whether you like this or not, it's totally up to you. But when you look at the back, it's much more commercial. It has advertisement for other figures. So in terms of the way it's laid out, the Neca Robocop figure seems to be much more of a collector's figure. So let's open this figure. One thing that you notice right away, it is heavier than you will realize, and it is pretty cool about that. It's always cool to see the gun displayed, and also what's cool about this figure that's different than all the other figures out there is that it has this interchangeable data spike. So once you have the figure out of the packaging, as you can see, the figure is actually pretty cool. It's detailed, and it has a lot of flexibility in terms of mobility. It has a lot of articulation. You can twist the head in all different kind of ways like this. And then the arm, of course, moves like that. And then one thing interesting about this Robocop as compared to the McFarlane Robocop is the waist actually moves, which adds a lot more mobility, and the chest is also not connected to the waist, which is also increases the range of motion. Two figures side by side. This is the McFarlane Robocop figure, and this is the Neca. It's hard to see through the camera, but one thing that you do notice is the McFarlane Robocop figure is much more shinier than the Neca one. And the Neca one tends to have a bigger bust. It looks like it has a bigger chest. Now, if you want to compare the detailing of the two figures, the helmet of the McFarlane figure, it's much more, I would say, movie accurate than the Neca figure. But one thing that's interesting about it is that if you look below at the helmet of the McFarlane figure, you don't see a nose. But for the Neca figure, you actually do see his nose, which is a little interesting, I think. The McFarlane figure's, the waist is not movable. Obviously it doesn't move, but it is painted with gloss black in the center. There's no gloss paint on the Neca figure, but it is extremely movable. The McFarlane figure and then the Neca figure's paint job is a bit different. McFarlane figure's paint job is much shinier, and it has a bit of a blue tint to it. It's hard to see in this video, but it's not too hard to see that the NECA figure right here, that its paint job is much more, I would say, silver and much more of a steel color. They both weigh about the same. The left wrist of the McFarlane Robocop is clenched, but the NECA Robocop's left wrist is not clenched, but the hand is open, as you can see. And here's the comparison of the backside. As you can see, it's actually very similar, but if you look at it very closely, you can just tell by the shoulder piece of the McFarlane figure. You see the depression, it's much more deep than the NECA figure. Of course, I'm being extremely detailed, extremely critical of these two figures. Now let's compare some of the props that comes with the figure. If you look at the McFarlane gun, it's about this size, but the gun for NECA is a bit bigger. And I don't know if you're how detailed you like to go, but McFarlane's gun also has a little clip that's sticking out, which I think adds to the detail. But of course, NECA's gun does not have that clip at the bottom. And of course, the NECA also comes with a data spike, and which I'll show you what it looks like. So you would just detach the hand like this, and add this data spike in. It's actually really tight, so it's actually kind of hard to it's actually really hard to add the wrist with the data spiking because it's just really tight. But then once it's all said and done, it does look pretty cool. It's just an extra addition to something that you have seen in the movies. Finally, McFarlane's figure comes with a stand, as you can see right here. I don't really understand why it came with a garbage can, a trash can. It doesn't really make sense to me, but it does. I've never really seen Robocop next to a trash can in the films, but it's provided. Then it all comes down to what are you really interested in. Are you really interested in movie accuracy, or are you interested in mobility and articulation? If you're interested in the design and the movie accuracy, you will definitely go with the McFarlane Robocop. But if you're interested in being able to pose Robocop in several different ways, in more ways than one, much more than the McFarlane figure, especially look at how the way the head can tilt, and of course the McFarlane figure can't really tilt his head. That's just one example of the articulation dominance of the NECA Robocop as opposed to the McFarlane Robocop. Alright, so that concludes our review of the new NECA Robocop figure. They are available in stores right now at the price around $16.99 to $15.99. But it's much harder to find McFarlane figures right now because they are no longer sold in stores, and the only available place I would say is on eBay. So there you go. McFarlane figure and the NECA figure side by side. I hope that you found this review useful. Thank you.